Today on the Take On Board podcast, I'm speaking again with Dorrit Kromann about high performing boards. Now, you might remember about a year ago, June 2024, Dorrit and I had a conversation then, and we talked about psychology in the boardroom. We talked about all sorts of things like how she got some voice training from an opera singer. And she challenged us to do a little check in when when our attention is wandering in board meetings. So there was a few tools she gave us around that as well. At the time, Dorrit was writing a book, and now her book is a reality. So today's conversation will touch on high performing boards and all of the beautiful wisdom that she has developed through her book, Building Bridges in Board Dynamics. Show it off, Dorrit.
Yes,
Show us
I will
what it
do
looks
that.
like.
That's what it looks like. And I can tell you a little story about that. This up here and that down here is a part of a painting that I did.
Okay. Well, let me do the acknowledgement of country and then I'm going to let you tell us all about
Yeah.
it. So, folks, before we kick off, as always, I would like to just acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet. For me, I am on the unceded lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and I pay my respects to elders past and present. I also pay my respects to any First Nations people who may be listening today. I acknowledge their continuing connections to land, waters, skies, culture, and country. I support Voice, Treaty and Truth for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples in Australia, and I encourage others in the Take On Board community to do the same. Now, let me reintroduce Dorrit. I know people have heard the summary about her before. She is on a range of boards, and indeed, I'm embarrassingly not going to name them because I will totally butcher the Danish language. And despite my name being Helge Svensson, I don't speak a word of it. But she is on a range of boards. She's a full-time board professional and investor. And after 2 decades of building a career linking the professional and human aspects of business, she now holds key board positions across a whole range of industries: fintech, IT, education, and utility services. In addition to driving performance in her own organisations, Dorrit is dedicated to equipping others with the necessary frameworks to understand board dynamics, become high value board members, and creating high performing organisations. So, welcome back to the Take On
Thank
Board
you.
podcast, Dorrit.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. I'm so happy to be here. It's it's always a good pleasure to talk to you, Helga, because you have this broad view into to the boards, and you're a big smile, as everybody can see now. That's just that's a good start.
Oh, thank you. Well, look, we're going to dig into the background at the moment, but do you want to give us the quick story about the cover of your book?
Yeah, I can do that. It's actually interesting because I started out. I had this idea about the book, and I just wanted all the knowledge I got from making all the mistakes I did, and all what we do, and sitting back and reflecting on board meetings and so on. I thought if I could give this to somebody, because then they can step on my experience instead of doing their own experiences, and especially when we talk about women on boards, is that you it's a new language, it's a new land. So I would just like to have that up working in the world. So that's what I started. So I went to one person. She is I did that years back. She is doing therapy with paintings, and I said to her, I want to look at my book with this. So I was with her for a whole day, and I did my painting, and it was my book.
Oh,
So
how
that's the
that?
part of it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah,
Oh, that is
yeah.
fantastic.
Yes, it was absolutely amazing. A
Mm.
fantastic day, and in the sun, out in the nature, and back in, and just meditating on it. And now the book is here.
Oh, I love that. Which is
Yeah,
a little bit, if I think about your book, kind of almost shining a light. The sun is shining, you are shining a light, and meditating on good governance for boards and high performing boards. So to me,
yeah.
that comes together beautifully.
Yeah, that's great. And also, I can tell another little story, which is really interesting, is that it has, at a certain stage, she handed me a color because you meditate on colors. She handed me a color. It was gold. And she said,
Mhm.
do you dare? Does that resonate with you? And I started doing some drawings with the gold. And it turns out that it's it looks like kintsugi. You know that the
Oh,
Japanese
yes.
when they mend things and they put it
Yes.
together, things that do not stick together, they stick together and make it even more beautiful. So there's
Yeah.
so much simple in that painting because it has the color of gold as well within it. It's
Oh,
just
I love
yeah,
that. Oh, I love that too. Yeah, the art of not just accepting things are broken, but making them different and better. And I
exactly.
love a bit of sparkle, bit of silver, bit of gold is
Yeah,
always an excellent thing.
yeah, true. So
Oh,
that was the story about when it started. It all really kicked off.
oh, I love that. That is
Yeah,
excellent.
yeah,
Well, you know what? I'm going to take those as your background stories because I want to dive in to our topic for today. Because,
yeah.
folks, if you want to hear more about Dorrit's background, you can hear that in her first episode, which, speaking of, we'll put a link to that in the show notes. So you might want to listen to both of these together. Um, but, Dorrit, as I said at the outset, you have just finished your
Hmm.
beautiful book that was just more than just an idea 12 months ago, but an idea in the making. Building bridges in board dynamics, be more confident, competent, and conscious as a value creating board member.
Hmm.
So, today we want to talk about high performing boards
Yeah.
and drawing on your book. Where should we
Hmm.
start?
Where should we start? So where we should start is where I started, is looking out in the world and see that uh, things are changing. Geopolitics,
Yeah,
everything, and since we met last time, so
oh,
many things have happened.
definitely.
So I looked into was a landscape, and I'm looking out the window and saying, I have this landscape. And when you look out there, you will see what you need to do. And what you see is that there's a lot of things going on. It's volatile.
Yeah,
So you look at, as I said, the geopolitics. You look at the diverse boards. You look at ESG. You look at war. You look at all these things, which makes it very important to look at the dynamics because everything influences the dynamics. And when I
yes,
came into the core, the inner part of the board, I saw that a lot of dynamics are happening. And what you can see is that when different people show up, a lot of great different things happen. Both
mm,
both things that will foster very good innovation, but also things that can stall it. And in
mm,
case you do not look at these dynamics and don't voice them, they can often store it. Or you will not be able to grab what is important here and do the innovation and get experience from that innovation. So
interesting.
that's really important. So that's how it all started. That I started thinking about it, and then going.
Interesting.
Yeah, go ahead. Mm.
No, oh no, I could dig in already, but I'm not going to. I'm going to see where it goes to next and then see if I can dig. But I'm already loving
Yeah,
that framework around dynamics. They can either foster or stall to lead to
yeah,
high performing. So I'm
yeah.
loving the picture it's getting in my mind already.
Oh,
Um,
perfect. Yeah. And that's why the where the I got to see the dynamics myself,
mm,
um, and also, for instance, from a lot of people around the world, I've got the same information. Or and I do some podcasts myself as well. I took in,
mm,
for instance, the last one I just put out was about the culture diversity, how that
mm,
will influence the board. And I had Fidria on, and she said it's important. And I think she said something that is so important. She said because we were talking about color, I asked her if I could do that. She's a woman of color,
mm,
and she said, and I said, so what do you think about this? And she said, well, because we said it's difficult for me to talk about it because I'm
yeah,
afraid that I do something wrong. And she said,
yes,
but if you don't see my color, you don't see
yeah,
me.
yes,
So that's so important. So, and that's the dynamics because you have to see
mm,
the variety. If you
mm,
don't see that I'm a woman in a board, how can you benefit from me being a woman on the board? If you
yes,
don't, so that's all the things that are really important. So when
mm,
I saw all this going on, I in parenthesis, I have a board on my own for the book, which is the most diverse board you can have.
yes,
Young, old, women from Canada, from different, from original from Bangladesh, from UK, uh, it's really a diverse board. And of course from Denmark, yeah. But it's you have men and women, everything on that board, and we really explored it in after the meeting. Not going into so what was the diversity, but exploring what was going on. So I had to tell this a little example because there was one time where we were missing. There was one the father figure at the board. He was kind of that type. He became that role, but he's really not skilled. So he checked out of it. But we talked about it on the board, saying this is what is happening in his role as being a male. Older than the youngest male. So it's kind of things are happening like that in the board, and we explored that as well, which was really fruitful. So those are all the things that I've seen. I've taken information from a lot around the world on the board. So go ahead. You have some questions.
Oh my goodness, I've got so many questions. It's hard to know where to dig first. So what might be for boards? I mean, diversity on boards is important. Having those strong dynamics is important. And what I heard, as I said, was strong dynamics to foster high-performing boards as opposed to stalling high-performing boards. Diversity is one of the things that creates that. It sounds like almost that psychological safety for people to speak up. Like, what are the ingredients? What are the ingredients that people should be looking for that high-performing board?
Great question, because that's really takes us into what you can do, because you can talk about a lot of times and a long time what is the diversity, but getting into it. So what I've been digging into is to use the organizational psychology, particularly with one. It's called and this is hard to say. It's system organizational psychodynamic model. So it's about psychodynamic, and it's put in a system, and then it's working with both the goal rational and the psychodynamic area, which means that
what was the first one that you said there? The
goal rational, which means that is where you can see it over the surface and under the surface.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. So I really like your saying because what I try to do in the book is to make it understandable without understanding the theory, but I still use some of the words from the theory. So basically,
I'm not afraid to ask the stupid question. I'll always be,
right.
What was that word?
Yeah,
what does that
that's
mean?
perfect. That's perfect. Because that helps me explain. And it helps me explain in another way, saying over the surface is what you know, what is the formal role. Underneath the surface is the informal roles. Is just like I talked to you about before on our board, that the older man was becoming a father figure. So things like that, all what you play out in your family, you repeat. You can repeat, depending on. Or you most of the time you do. Like I had to because I'm the youngest sister, and I had to look into how does that affect my position on the board and my how I show up. And that's
okay.
Really
I'm the youngest sister too, Dorrit. How does it show up for you? Because it'll show up for me as well.
Yeah, it will or it will not, because it all depends on the individual. That's so important for me to say, that when I talk about these things over the surface and under the surface, when I talk about analyzing and all these things, it is a way to look at it, but you as a person, you are who you are, which is so important for me to say. So what it is to be a younger sister is to go into the and be, you always have somebody knowing more, because you saw that in your childhood. You were born into somebody knowing more. I mean, my own two children. I have one, and they're 6 years apart. So the youngest one, he's already had 3 parents, right? So, but that takes then it takes a lot of effort to do the individualization when you're a teenager. So it's kind of, you have to, at a certain stage you have to stand up and say, I'm not, I'm an adult
Yeah.
as well as you, and I have become, and I get knowledge in another direction, because now it's not only about life knowledge, it's about
Mhm.
a lot of things. But if you don't check out on that, you will keep on being the little sister. And if you keep on being the little sister, you will always seek acknowledgement and go into the board in that
Mm.
way. So going a little bit further, I have so many good stories. I was in 2001. I took a top manager program, educational program for me, for top managers,
Yes.
and the whole that you see, that's many years ago. So the group of psychologists that was on the program, running the program, they were saying this is really particular because you are all not the firstborn, and usually what we have seen in all the researches has been that it was mostly firstborns. So we were this special group that were different. So
Interesting.
yeah, it was really interesting. So what I think is changing now is that we come in as individuals. It takes 25 years and more to try and kind of take in people as one person instead of your youngest, and you have to do that yourself as well. Show up with confidence and competent when you show up in the board, and
Yes.
you have to know what you want to do when you get on the board, because
Mm.
that's also one of my really, it's important. When I took the first board position and when I was 18, I had
Yes.
no idea of what it was. I was just, well, I had to run this and I'll do that. It was a co-op. It was protected by the law, which meant that it was okay to be an amateur.
Yes.
But anyhow, I didn't know. And today I see people that do not know that when you're on a board, you are accountable. So what we have right now in Denmark is, it's just recently a board that was it's owned by the municipality, but it's a private company. But the board is being sued um, personally. So that's
Yes.
something you really have to be careful about, to choose
Definitely.
your right positions. So that's one of
Yes.
my points in the beginning of the book. So
Yes.
a lot of story, I can talk about all these examples around the world, but going back to what you asked me was about how can you work with this. So for me, it's taking the model. I think maybe I can find it here. Can you see that? Can you see the
Uh,
model?
put it up a
Yes.
little bit. Dorrit, put it up. That, well, you know what? I can kind of see it, but not well enough to see what it's about. So,
Okay. So what it
and
is that
folks that are listening, we'll put a link. Maybe we'll just put a picture of the model in the show notes. Are we able to do that, Dorrit?
yeah,
Yes, excellent. Those are on video. You might get to see it. And Dorrit's about to talk us through. So
yeah,
tell us about the model.
yeah, but this is the model in a very simple drawing. It's coming from Sten Wilson that developed this when I was studying my master of organizational psychology. It's about the iceberg. It's about what is over the surface and what is under the surface, as we just talked about, the boundaries
Yes.
and so on. So use that model to kind of get into all
Mm,
parts of the board. So going
yes.
on from that, so this is just a way to kind of look at the board. But going from that, you can go into your own personal psychology, and you can go into the group psychology. So
Mm,
on your own side, what is important to know is that we I actually just talk to you about one is the transference, that if you, whatever you experience as a childhood, you can transfer and replay that into the board as it is right now, or any place in the world. That's what we do as human beings. For the other thing is the projection. If I get into a room, and this is really where you get the psychological roles. Uh, I have to have a disclaimer here. Everything I say is being put in black and white because it's
mm,
so much more complicated. I have to say that, and that goes for my book as well. In order to
yes.
explain, you have to be a little bit black and white, right?
Yes.
So, but getting into this is if you have these roles, you have the projections where people probably know about projections. So in the boardroom, what happens is if you get into the boardroom, you have just been out in a meeting that is that was terrible. It was a financial crisis. And you come into the
Mm.
boardroom, you are angry because you were not here heard. You didn't hear every people, and it was really a terrible place to be. So if you're angry and you
Yes.
are, in the old days, women, I think maybe still, but we were brought up as being good girls. So you anger
Yes.
is nothing you get into. So suppressing that, but it has to come out, could be projecting your anger onto somebody else, which means that somebody else is actually playing out that part. So
Yes.
and you can see that maybe try maybe we can do that here on the podcast here or the show is that if everybody think about going back in an organization, think about who is in that group. You can have
Yes.
a group of five or something. When you sit in that team, think about a meeting and think about the person that is always angry. Think about the person that's always complaining. Think about the person that will always be the tearing up. Think
Yeah.
about, think about these roles. This is
Yes.
the reason for that is our projections into that. So I've seen it, working on maybe did you try that all out there? Maybe you can instead of me, maybe I just take a little, just 2 seconds to let people just make it feel it.
Ah.
Do you have these roles? Let's go on. I know I'm not giving enough time, but I think you can do it. So what I experienced once was when you train this, you go into what we call a process study group, where the only thing you do there is talk about your feelings, thoughts, and fantasies in the group as they are here now. No subject, no nothing. So you really get to explore. And there was one time, one guy, he was saying to me, "Oh, I get so angry with you, and I don't know why." And then I was kind of, "Whoa, what did I do? What did I say?" And then after 10 minutes, he came back into the and voicing his in the group. You're sitting in, around the table, not without the table, but you're sitting around. And then he said, "Dorrit, I know now why I get angry with you. It's because you put me into contact with my own vulnerability, and I don't want that."
Mm.
And
Mm.
he gave me a gift then,
Yes.
because because he really said to me what I experienced, that's what's happening. So people can
And
tend to be angry.
that amazing gift to himself as well. Like I'm thinking, so here's how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
Self-interrogation, self-awareness. Why am I feeling this way? Oh, the thought behind it
Hmm.
is I'm feeling vulnerable. I don't want to
Yeah.
feel vulnerable. I want
Exactly.
to feel strong and confident
Yes.
or whatever,
Yes.
you know? So
Exactly.
it's, yeah. So being able to dig behind that. Wow. Well done him on doing
Totally.
that digging and then articulating it as well. That's
Yeah.
pretty impressive.
Yes. I was just, and I thought this is maybe 15 years ago, and I really cherish this with my heart, like you said
Yeah.
that, because coming back to what you bring onto the board is that was the I was mentalizing on that, and I used that in the board when
Yes.
people go have a go at me, because I unfortunately I experienced that some people
Yes.
suddenly get a go on me personally. So then I go back and say, well, what is my part of it? Uh,
Yes.
what is it I bring to the table? And I mentalize on my own um, intentions.
Yes.
Then I go back and look at what are their intentions,
Yes.
and then I can react. Of course, it's very difficult because in the moment, and sometimes I've just been, I remember one meeting where I said, "This is not how to talk to me," but
Yeah.
it was out of affection, and it came like that. Maybe if I'd had a little bit more time, grounded myself, and
Yes.
thinking, what is his intention? What is wrong with him? And in this particular situation, it turned out that he was really put a pressure on him because he had a very important meeting, and
Yes.
the meeting was dragging out.
Yes.
So yeah, so that's how it
Yeah.
works.
It's interesting. Yeah, that whole, yeah, put yourself in their shoes and do a little bit of self-examination. I mean, we've all had, I'm sure, I certainly have had people in the workplace, in the boardroom, all over the place that trigger
Mhm.
me for reasons that are way more about me than about them.
Mhm.
But it takes a while to get to that point. So at the
Yeah.
start, it might be, oh, that person is so annoying.
Mhm.
Then, oh, that person is annoying me, which is different to them being annoying. And then, why am I feeling annoyed? Oh, it's
Mm.
actually about something that I'm doing or
And
something about me. Interesting.
the last thing, it can be something you just have together. That is the yin.
Yes.
What I do like this is the yin and yang, right? So
Yes.
suddenly you come together because that person will react what
Yes.
you were expecting. So you will push the buttons. As I say
Yeah.
to people, you have pin codes to people. You
Yeah.
can do, you can trigger everybody with feelings you don't like to have on your own or express on your own, right? That's
Yes.
so that's a lot about the personal stuff. You can even go even deeper into it. So being a non-therapist, you can go so deep into it.
Yes.
Going back to your childhood traumas for the first 6 years of your life, where you really, if your needs were not met, then you will start developing survival mechanisms. So that's
Yes.
going really deep, but I'm not saying that should be done on the board. And which is really important for me is that the board has one task. That's to work on the company, and that's on the primary task is to make sure that this company is run in the right way, uh,
Yes.
both on giving return on equity, return on, and even soft equity
Yes.
if it's an NGO, and then it's to make sure that the organization is working. So you have I call it a double role, despite it could be the same. But if you're selling a company,
Yeah.
you might have to not look at the best interest of the organization
Yes.
because it's the shareholders. So you have some kind of doubleness in the board.
Yeah.
But you have to look at if you have a crisis during COVID. It does not help a lot if you start sitting around, as we say in Denmark, in the hippie way to and just reflect on what's going. It's COVID, people dying. You have
Yeah.
to act. So
Yes.
you have to be like our prime minister. She was really, really. She's been not yelled at, but people have been mad at her because she has
Yeah.
been so strict. But we actually came out of COVID in a really good way. So
Yes.
that is so important to not acknowledge that on the board you have a task,
Yes.
and the soft parts. If things are stalling in a crisis, go and check out your dynamics. If they are not,
Mm.
I think you should just go ahead and handle that crisis. It's so important, and then you can deal with it afterwards. Talk about what
Yes.
happened, right? So that's important for yourself and
Yes.
for the group, which is the other part of it. There's some group dynamics as well going on.
Yes.
We actually look at the group as a unity, has a life on its own, and the transference between the the board, how the board is working, down into the organization.
Mm.
You would amaze yourself if you took a look out like Luhmann is looking at the system, one of the theorists looking at the system, and you would amaze yourself if you could see what's actually going on.
Mm. Well, it's kind of the role of the board, isn't it? To get up on the balcony, as they say, or the helicopter view, or whatever it may be. It's that getting up
Mm-hmm.
and being able to see that when you're in it, you're not necessarily able to see it. And I think part of what I'm hearing here about that high performing board is that it's both individual reflection and performance and awareness, and as well as that, obviously, that group awareness, performance, all of
Mm-hmm.
that sort of thing. So, how they all come together, which I'm sure all that and more is explored in your amazing book.
Yes.
Um, oh, Dorrit,
Mm-hmm.
I know we've only touched on some of the things here, but
That's
what
right.
are the key things you want people to take away from the conversation that we've had today?
So, what are the key things? First of all, to all of you out there, I think it's really important that you know what you're doing when you're getting on a board.
Mm.
Look at the landscape. Look at the whatever you can get of information. Get if you can't get to talk to the chair before you
Yes.
get on the board. I- I've not I've never No, say that once again. I have turned down roles because I couldn't get onto it was a public
Yes.
announced job. And I said,
Yes.
well, if I can't get in touch with you, forget about it.
Yes.
So understand your role, understand your landscape, understand the finances, make
Yes.
sure that you know what is the values. If you can't agree with the values on the board, look at
Yes.
everything about the board, the company, the NGO, or whatever you get into. That's one thing. The other thing is you can analyze the board also when they have the first board meeting, going underneath the surface, look at all
Yes.
the soft roles.
Yes.
Of course, the first one you can prepare all the hard roles. Look at the primary task. Are we working on the primary task? Or is the group just waiting for messiahs, because that's one of the group when you go into basic assumption group. So work on that, look at it, feel what's going on, and make yourself spend just a couple of seconds during the meeting, maybe if after each item in the agenda, where are you? Ground yourself, feel your feet. So you understand where you are and get to know yourself. Look at your whole life and say, what is it that actually drives me?
Yes.
And then on the group dynamics, I think it's so important that you go deeper. We didn't never even got. We had to have and make another one because we didn't go into the group dynamics with, as I
Yes.
just said, how the group works. But there's so much more to look into that.
Yes.
Understand the group dynamics. Are we actually working on the task? What is the purpose? Do we still everybody align to the purpose and so on? All the biases and all that. So many things to get into. And the last thing, which is my new chapter, because what I'm doing is that I have the book. Uh, it takes a long time to do the print and the editing and all that. So what I'm doing now is I have my website and I add on chapters throughout the year from now on. And the next chapter is about mentalization. So, and mentalizing on the boards is about what I just talked to you about. In other words, it's about understanding your own intention, understanding the other people's intention, understand the group intention. So it's the and this could be, who am I? Did I come from a bad meeting? Who's he? Is he waiting to get onto another meeting? So he's really put a pressure on him, and he doesn't want to get into questions. The group is the group afraid because they just had the CEO just stopped, so we don't know what to do. So the group can go into, or the chairman is not there anymore. The fatherly figure is not there anymore. We have a maternal. We were looking for a maternal figure. Is that the anxiety in the group that will just say, what should we do? So getting into that and using mentalization and be good at that, and that you can practice that, and that's what I'm getting into in the next.
So the updates as they come as well are some resources that will be really helpful for the Take on Board community.
Yes. You can also, and you can call me, because I, as you can hear, I can speak for hours on this, and I love to help people, and this is the whole dynamic for me, is that I like to help people.
Launched, published, whatever it is, a couple of weeks ago. So that is fantastic. We will make sure there is a link in the show notes to that. So folks, go and have a look at it, and have a look at Dorrit's website, both for the book and for the updates. Oh, thank you so much for coming back and sharing a bit more of your wisdom with the Take on Board community.